In this video, we're going to practice solving a system of equations using substitution. This is our second example, so this one's going to be a little bit more challenging than the first example. If we look at our system of equations, we have y equals 4x, and we have 2x plus 3y equals 14. Both of these equations have both an x and a y in them. So in order to solve for x or y, we have to get our equations to only have x or only have y in them. We can't solve if there's both an x and a y. So we need to substitute one thing in place for another to make our equation have only one letter in it. So our first equation, y equals 4x, is set up nicely because it tells us exactly what y equals. Our second equation isn't as clear, so I'm going to use our first equation to figure out what we're going to plug in to our second equation. So our first equation says anywhere we see y, we can put 4x. So I'm going to look at my second equation, I'm going to find where y is, and I'm going to replace that with 4x. So I'm going to rewrite the equation the exact same way, but instead of y, I'll be putting 4x in its place. So my rewritten equation is 2x plus 3. I'm going to use parentheses to show multiplication because it's 3y, which means 3 times y. But instead I'm going to put 4x in place of y equals 14. Now I'm going to start solving. So when I start doing my math, the 2x hasn't changed yet. I need to do 3 times 4x. That gets me 12x equals 14. Now I can start solving for x because I can combine 2x and 12x together to get 14x. And I'm left with 14x equals 14. My final step will be to divide by 14 to get x all by itself. So that tells me that x equals 1. So remember, we write our answers for a system of equations in an ordered pair, an x and a y. So we just figured out what our x is. Now we have to figure out what y is. So we're going to go back and we're going to plug our x value into one of the two equations that we started with. You can use either equation, they'll both work, but I'm going to pick the one that's easier, that leaves less work for me to do. That'll be our first equation, y equals 4x. So I'm going to use that equation. Anywhere I see x, I'm going to put the number 1 because we just did all this work to figure out that x and 1 are the same thing. So instead of y equals 4 times x, I'm going to put y equals 4 times 1. 4 times 1 is 4, so y is 4. So our final answer in an ordered pair is 1, 4, because x equals 1 and y equals 4. You would get the same answer if you plugged x equals 1 into your second equation as well. You would just do a little bit longer of a math problem.